Hello and welcome back to a brand new BR live stream. We are Pick a Side. My name is Joel Moran. I'm here with River Brown, Andrew Velez, and John Tortorelli. NBA free agency show. Now, this is a much different atmosphere than it was last year because we have so many moves that have happened, and I think we're about to get much more in the next coming hours. Fellas, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk some basketball. I mean, there's no fan happier than a Los Angeles Laker fan. I'm through the moon. This year has been, if not the best trade deadline I've ever experienced. We have star player after star player getting traded, and another big trade happened last night. We're going to talk about it, but I'm definitely excited.
Yeah, I'm just more shocked at the people that have been moved at the deadline. You know, I think we were expecting a few guys to get moved, but other guys we weren't expecting at all. So now, like you mentioned, greatest deadline ever, probably because just how much shock and like I was sitting in the bed, I'm like, wow, like this move actually happened. Wow, this move actually happened. Definitely shocked the other day when the specific move really happened. Yeah. I'm like, wow. So excited to talk about it. Excited to, have a few conversations that I feel like are going to be some fun ones.
Absolutely. Today's a great day. We got a snow day, and this feels even better than NBA free agency. I mean, this is, like you highlighted, the craziest trade deadline that I've seen in such a long time because there's so many buyers in the NBA, so many teams kind of looking to compete in this arms race in the Western Conference. So couldn't be happier to be here.
The NBA trade deadline has dominated the headline so much so that people aren't even talking about the big game. They're not talking about Patrick Mahomes three-peating in just a couple days.
Because we don't care.
I really love that for the NBA. NBA said, oh, it's the biggest game of the season. Oh, one of the biggest storylines maybe in NFL history. Nope, doesn't matter. NBA trade deadline, we're going to move the cream of the crop to different teams, and we're going to steal the show.
We don't care about Mahomes three-peating because it's not going to happen to us.
It will happen. You'll be upset again, just like you were 2 years ago. But you're probably upset because the move happened for your team, Riv. Steph Curry, your favorite player, the Warriors landed Jimmy Butler. They traded Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, Dennis Schroeder, and they traded a top 10 protected first-round pick in 2025 to get Jimmy Butler. The Heat now have Andrew Wiggins. The Jazz have Dennis Schroeder. The Heat also have Kyle Anderson because the deal fell through with the Toronto Raptors. Now, how are you feeling about Jimmy Butler to the Warriors? I just feel like a couple years ago, dating back to last year, you can argue Jimmy Butler was viewed as a legendary playoff performer, but now it seems like people are not giving the Warriors a chance to legitimately compete for a championship.
Well, first of all, I'm heartbroken.
You can stay on Jimmy.
I'm only heartbroken because my brother Andrew Wiggins. I've been through the mud with this brother.
For you, man.
Yeah, he really gave me some good vibes, some highs, some lows. Been defending that man for about 3 years, so I'm definitely hurt by that. Losing him hurts. But at the same time, I guess this feels like a trade that kind of just makes the fan base kind of like get off Dunleavy's back. Like, all right, I've tried for Kevin Durant. I've tried for Paul George. The Kevin Durant deal was in place. Kevin Durant stepped up and he was like, nah,
that hurts.
I don't want to go there. And I get it. And that's all somebody's fault, but I'm not going to say whose fault it is. But yeah, again, Jimmy Butler, I guess, is like a whatever move. Like, you give Golden State a chance to fight in the play-in, so it's cool. Like, you give them a lasting chance to kind of be a competitive play-in, playoff team if you want them to be. Kind of give them their last hurrah. You pay Jimmy Butler his 2 or 3 year money so they can all like I sent you the books. 2027, 2028, nobody's on the books. Like, you will have essentially no money. That's probably the time where you're thinking Steph, Dre, and Jimmy Butler are all gone. So they're kind of preparing themselves for the next step. And I guess they're happy because you get to keep Jonathan Kuminga, who's somebody they've been up and down with, 50-50 on. You give up Andrew Wiggins. Dennis Schroeder kind of wasn't really playing like he was playing in Brooklyn with Golden State. So it wasn't really... You didn't lose anything there. Kyle Anderson wasn't playing, so you didn't lose anything there. You managed to keep some protections on your pick, 2025 top 10, 2026 top 10 protected, 2027. I think it goes right to Miami. And then for Miami's side, like, you get a good player back. Like, you get a player who's consistently really good on the defensive end. Offensively, he's been really good for you this year. And he kind of comes in, no ego, kind of comes in, doesn't shot hunt. Kind of fits that Miami mold of just comes to work every day, comes to play ball. So you get a player that he just wants to hoop, so that kind of helps Miami and just staying where they are, which is being a competitive team. For Golden State, they just blew a 12-point lead in like 2 minutes last night. And me and Sebastian was texting last night, and he was like, Riv, there's no way you lose tonight. I was like, yo, it's hilarious because we legitimately might lose tonight because we're not good. Especially you had Andrew Wiggins, Dennis go to the back. They couldn't play last night. We're really not that good. But Jimmy's cool. Like, Jimmy has something to prove, so I guess that's something you feel excited about. Like I said, this is really just a Band-Aid for Mike Dunleavy to put over fans to kind of like stop from realizing he missed.
Damn.
Yeah, like here, damn, because he missed on damn near. And I give him credit.
He tried.
He did try. He called 30 to 40 different teams. Like, yo, bro, who's available? Who you got? I just feel like we failed prior to this year. We had moves in the offseason we could have made last year, and even going back to
Only
drafts.
Pods was available.
Listen, man, Pod's still in the team, so they managed to do that. But getting Jimmy is cool. Like, I don't think it's a bad move because you didn't really give up much. Like, it's really essentially one-on-one deal. But it's like it doesn't make him a championship contender. I don't think that.
It's hard for me to look at it and not be at least slightly optimistic for the Golden State Warriors. It's Jimmy Butler. I think people are missing that plot point. Jimmy Butler's still a great player. Now, he has been injured. Yes, he has been a little bit of a headache for Miami, where he has been suspended and he's missed a ton of time on the court. But if we know one thing about Jimmy Butler, he's out to prove a point. And now he's on Golden State and he's hungry and he's motivated. Now he's with Steph Curry, Draymond Green. I still think we're going to see great basketball out of him. Riv mentioned the top 10 protected first-round pick. Let's say this doesn't work out. Let's say they are not a play-in, playoff team, and their pick is in the top 10, they get that first-round pick back. So either which way you shake it, it could still benefit the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry wanted a co-partner. He gets one in Jimmy Butler. Is it Kevin Durant? No, it's not. Jimmy Butler's not Kevin Durant, nowhere near, never will be, but Jimmy Butler's still a great player, and we've seen him elevate in the playoffs. As for the Miami Heat, getting Andrew Wiggins, I think couldn't be a better get back for them. And a first-round pick, considering that all the chips were kind of taken away from Miami. They had zero leverage. You knew that Jimmy Butler was going to be gone after this season. And even still, you were able to get Wiggins and a first-round pick back. I thought that was a pretty great haul for them. And Andrew Wiggins fits what they want to do. Like Riv mentioned, a nice 3-and-D guy, can get to the basket, gives you amazing defense. And Tyler Hero has been the majority offense for them this season. Yep. Hopefully now you can get Bam. If second half Bam, he can get going a little bit. Not going to hold my breath on that as he's been the most inefficient center at the basket. But regardless, if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, there's slight optimism to be had because Jimmy Butler is far from bad.
Let's call it what it is. There's no optimism. Do you feel optimism
about winning a championship?
About Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors?
Winning a championship, no.
If you're going to disrespect Jimmy Butler,
yes.
Cater it to, yes. They're not a championship team.
There's no optimism. The optimism with the Warriors is, can we compete in this window with Steph Curry? They cannot legitimately compete for anything meaningful.
Don't talk
it's
like
too
Jimmy's
old of a
regular.
team. Steph Curry is 36. Draymond Green is 34. Jimmy Butler is 35. Steph Curry, we've been speaking about it. He's not that same Steph Curry anymore. They blew a double-digit lead with 2.5 minutes left to the Utah Jazz, one of the worst teams in basketball. Just slotted in, Jimmy Butler doesn't fit that. You now get another shot creator and initiator, but with Wiggins, you lose spacing. He had double the three-point attempts of Jimmy Butler. He was still a very good defender. Where is the depth coming from? Where is the three-point shooting and the spacing coming from on this team?
Depth? What do you mean?
The depth that the Warriors have. Where is the depth coming from?
We didn't lose it.
I know, but you lost
didn't
two
have quality
players
depth to begin with.
So
you lost three players.
It's Steph. It's
Shooter. Anderson played in spurts.
Yeah, he didn't play. Like you can't call him a depth. He's never been consistent in the rotation.
You lost three players and you got Jimmy Butler.
I can't agree with the
two players
depth
that are a part of the rotation.
Two, yes, but you gain one back. You still have most of your depth. Like Kevon Looney was playing more than Kyle Anderson. You're not losing anything with Kyle Anderson.
I think there's too many question marks
Steph,
with the Warriors.
You have Pods.
Pods is a shooter, shooting 33% from three this year.
Wasn't a shooter.
You still anticipate that he's going to get back to his norm.
He's not a shooter, though. He hasn't not been shooting well this year.
This season, for sure.
The shooters is Steph Curry and Buddy Hield, and after that, it gets really grim. There's nobody else that you trust. I mean, let's be honest about this. You know, Jimmy Butler forced his way out of Miami, and he got a 2-year extension. I mean, he was holding out of Miami this entire time for what? A big-time max contract, and he eventually caved and said, you know, I signed a 2-year deal with the Heat.
He's 30. I think he wanted 60 mil.
I think he won.
Yeah, I think he won too.
If I'm Jimmy Butler, I'm thinking I won. I got
can
out
retire
of
in
my.
If I'm the Heat, I'm thinking I won because I didn't have to pay Jimmy Butler,
Sure, yeah,
and I
100%.
got players added to my culture. I think by far and away the Heat won this trade. Getting the first-round pick, getting Andrew Wiggins, getting Kyle Anderson. I feel like they are now clearly building around the current timeline that they have, and they're not trying to mix and match the two timelines. I feel like where the Warriors went wrong in the grand scheme of things is they try to combine two timelines with the young players and then the older players, and that's why they're stuck in this predicament.
For sure, I wouldn't say Miami won though. Like they're fitting a timeline that can't win them anything. Because if you look at Miami and you look at Golden State got Jimmy Butler. You think they can't win a championship? I agree with you. I think me and Drew are on the same page. I don't think they can win a championship either. But
in the conference finals team.
I don't think so either.
They're
Like the
playoff
West,
team.
Yeah,
It's
the
Steph
West,
Curry, it's Jimmy Butler.
The West
and
is so tough. Like it's hard for me to say they're a WCF team. But if you go over to the Miami Heat side, you lose Jimmy Butler, you get Andrew Wiggins back. That doesn't make you farther than what you already were. You are still probably most definitely a first round exit. Maybe you get to the second round. This fits a timeline of Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. That does nothing for you. You have to pray that the Golden State Warriors make the playoffs so you can even get their picks, and then I'll give Miami credit. They'll probably hit on those
It's a top 10 protected first round pick. Unless the Warriors are bad, that pick is going to the Miami Heat. And they're going to get a pick in the teens. Right now, it's not about competing for the championship with the Heat. They weren't going to compete for a championship with Jimmy Butler on the Heat this year and moving forward.
You give yourself a better chance. Like Miami, I feel like should be in the same sense of they keep retooling and keep focusing on just being competitive. Maybe they need to switch over. Maybe they need to go into the rebuild process.
They've never done that in their franchise
I agree,
history,
and I think
much.
that sometimes that can be a bit of a, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing? Now we don't have a star. I think Andrew Wiggins fits perfectly to what they want to do. I can't fully say Miami won the trade. I think both sides kind of got what they wanted in a sense.
I think Miami
got
won
out
for
well.
circumstance.
Yeah, Miami got out very well. In 4 months, they're going to lose Jimmy. And now you get a Wiggins who's 6 years younger. And still this year, it's been very productive. It's been a bounce-back year for Wiggins. And like you highlighted, the pick's top 10 protected. But we've seen them almost every other top pick from 11 to 18. They've nailed it more often than not. So to give Pat Riley that extra ammo for a guy that, no matter what, wasn't going to be here in 5 months, that's a huge win for Miami. But for the Warriors side of things, this was a move out of desperation. And it felt like too little, too late, where on one hand, you do like Jimmy Butler playing with a chip on his shoulder. We've seen him with that in Miami. We've seen him with that in Chicago. And even in Minnesota at times. But the issue with this move is that outside of that core three, you don't look at many difference makers. Maybe it is Buddy Hield for a game or two.
It's not.
In this Warriors rotation. We saw last year in Philadelphia after he struggled early on. And
it's not.
Beyond that core three, there's no one on that Golden State team that gives me optimism that, they can make it at the play-in, but can they maybe win a playoff series? That's where I have a lot of pause, partly because we have seen Steph start to slowly decline. And I'm not going to say anything crazy, but I don't look at Steph as a bona fide top 10 player right now. This is something you and I have talked about. So that's really another question for the Warriors where multiple stars here, specifically Steph and Jimmy, they do have a lot to prove in the second half of the season.
Now, we have a trade to announce. The Sixers are trading Reggie Jackson to the Washington Wizards with a future first-round pick for Jared Butler and 4 second-round picks, league sources tell the Stein line.
Jared Butler's been playing well.
Jared Butler is a very good player. I've liked him since Baylor.
Yeah.
I think he's a better player than Davion Mitchell back in Baylor. Jared Butler, don't sleep on Jared Butler, Riv.
He was a first.
You was a Davion guy. I was a JB guy.
John,
that's JB.
John, I'm not looking at him because of that. I'm looking at him because he said, I've always loved Jared Butler. That's where I looked at him like, have you though?
Yes, I have.
The reason he felt the second round is health concerns.
Can you believe second round picks have become as valuable as they've been? This new CBA is something special, man. It really is insane. 4 second round picks.
So you've always been a Jared Butler guy.
Jared Butler's I mean, we have text messages probably dating back to that time that you probably don't remember. Yes, we did. Riv, after the show, we'll go back to the text messages. We will.
Do we think that Philadelphia does any other move at the deadline? Do you think they're going to be sellers or buyers?
I think they should be buyers, and I love the moves that they've made. Quentin Grimes has been playing great for the Sixers, and I feel like they needed more guard play, defensive versatility, and three-point shooter. And Jared Butler's a good player. They lost Jared McCain for this season, and they need to fill that guard void off the bench. And I think Jared Butler can fill that. He really hasn't had his fair shake in the NBA. Again, drafted to the Utah Jazz. Didn't have much of an opportunity now going to the Wizards. Going to the Sixers with Nick Nurse, I think that he's going to play well.
Honestly, I don't know what they would be moving or being like for them to be buyers. What would they have to move? Like, I don't think they have too many assets to move. I don't think they have too many tradable contracts. So I feel like these are the small
Whatever you're done with
margin
this
error
trade,
moves that they have
you
to
can
make,
go
like
to
these ones
Ingram.
right here. Like now you have Jared Butler. Can he replicate the same success he's had in Washington this year with Philly, a team that's kind of pushing for something? You know, can Quentin Grimes come in? Can he be immediate help? It's these type of moves that can help this team because they're already capped up with Embiid, Maxey, PG. You know, they have Kelly Oubre. You know, so they have these guys already kind of in the starting lineup. Now it's about getting a little bit younger, but also kind of trying to fill out, you know, like you mentioned, Quentin Grimes, 3-and-D type of player. Jared Butler, he's a solid point guard, can push the pace, can get to the basket. So it's these type of moves that they can make. Plus they're getting some type of, you know, compensation. 4 second-round picks. They got a 2025 second-round pick from getting Quentin Grimes. So it's about winning on, like, it's those small margin error moves right there can you make. And I think Philly, that's the way they got to go.
I only asked that question because Yabusele, who knows if he's going to come back next year because he's been playing good ball. He's going to get a nice contract, and I don't know if Philadelphia is going to be able to pay that. Do you capitalize on that, understanding that this probably is a dead season for the 76ers?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 games under 500. Like you highlighted, I think this is really all about Philadelphia should be buyers. They have some smaller contracts, around $7 million. Kelly Oubre and KJ Martin. They can move to get in the business of being younger and more athletic. And I think that's what we saw with the Q-Dot move. I love that for them because Caleb Martin, after leaving Miami, was not the same player. But adding another player like Jared Butler, who showed a lot of promise this year in Washington with opportunity, you're just kind of funneling more and more talent into the chess pool because this is a lost season for Philly, but next year you still have Paul George on a max contract. You have Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. The window is next season. So to get really as much assets as you can and prepare for that, that's the best way to go. And so they should be slight buyers.
And the Wizards, they've done a pretty good job this deadline, trading Kyle Kuzma, Jonas Valanciunas. They got a pick swap, 2 second-round picks. And now they trade Jared Butler, and they get a future first-round pick from the Sixers.
Their young core is solid. It's nothing to sit here and drool about, but it's a good young core. You got Carrington, you got Jordan Poole, who's probably the oldest out the bunch. You got Bilal, you got Keyshawn George, Sarr. Then you're gonna bring in another guy. So it's nothing that you sit there and you're like, this is one of the best young cores in the league. But it's
AJ
a young
Johnson
core
too.
Yeah, now you have AJ Johnson, who let's see what he can do. But it's definitely a young core that you're like, all right, like I get it, Washington. I can see it. I understand what you're doing. You've done a nice thing. Corey Kispert is another person who I think is really good for them. And now they're Chris Middleton contract probably ends after this year. They can move him. You got off Kyle Kuzma, who's one of the worst volume scorers in basketball. He's just not a good basketball player in my opinion. So now Washington's sitting there. You got a young core that likes to play with each other. A cool little coach. I like what Washington's doing. They're trying to recover from the Bradley Beal mistake. With the new front office, new head coach, all that stuff.
Brandon Ingram got traded to the Toronto Raptors. They gave up Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a second-round pick, and a first-round pick. And Bruce Brown was on an expiring deal. He was going to get moved eventually or bought out. Brandon Ingram on an expiring deal. The Pelicans able to get some type of return for Brandon Ingram. The Raptors, let's try to think about what they're doing, what their thought process is for the future. Does this move make sense to you? I'll start with you, Drew.
So, buying low on a player like Brandon Ingram, it intrigues me. I won't say that it doesn't. That being said, what's the direction here if you're Toronto? I understand Masai's trying to buy low on Brandon Ingram, and I honestly don't think that you were going to get him for any lower of a price. First, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk. Okay, fair enough. But this collection of players is just confusing to me. So there's a good amount of size in the wings. You have Scotty, you have Brandon Ingram, but these are two players that need the ball in their hands to really be successful. They're not the greatest volume three-point shooters. You could argue both are pretty great playmakers for their position as well, but there's really no consistent shooting on this team. There's no overwhelming player to put you over the top, and I'm a huge fan of Scotty Barnes. I like Brandon Ingram, but this assortment of players, too, where you have Scotty and Emmanuel quickly, these are two of their best players that have struggled to stay on the court as well. What's going to happen with Jakob Poeltl? Is Jakob Poeltl going to be here for the long haul? This is a weird direction for Toronto, especially in a year where we thought that they'd be going all out trying to get Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, one of the top prospects. For this to be a move where they're buyers at the deadline, that shocked me more than anything.
Right. I'll start. I think with Toronto, they're in a weird spot because it's a smaller market team. You're not going to track free agents. So this move to me is them purely trying to get as much talent onto the roster, but My gripe with the trade is that they need shooting in that starting lineup, and by adding in Brandon Ingram, you have guys like Ochai Agbaji, who's been uber efficient this year, and Grady Dick losing that opportunity and that really chance to develop within that five. Because now you look at that starting five, it's Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. If it's 1998, I like that quite a bit, but it's 2025, you need floor spacing, and 2 through 4, you have very little, and it's really more a matter of the attempts. Brandon Ingram's a capable shooter who's taking 3 a game. R.J. Barrett's shown to be up and down. Scotty Barnes, it's a similar story. And with a true center like Jakob Poeltl, there's just not enough shooting or spacing for me to really say this is a good environment to foster development for R.J. But I do understand that B.I. is still only 27 years old, and they're going to look to extend him. It's just a matter of how well does he fit alongside RJ? Because I think Scotty Barnes, he's really the best asset. He's the best young player they have. That's the way I should put it. I'm not worried about how they fit off of Scotty. I'm more worried about how RJ and BI can kind of work together.
I was hoping that RJ Barrett was going to have his reunion with Zion Williamson when it was first reported that the Raptors were interested in Brandon Ingram, because I didn't think that the fit necessarily worked. And RJ Barrett to the Pelicans, I guess it doesn't make much sense either, but it would have been a fair return for Brandon Ingram.
It would have been cool.
I think the Raptors right now, they're just trying to collect as many talented players as possible because, number one, it's a small market. Players don't usually want to go to Toronto. And number two, you have to get luck in the draft lottery to get one of those high-end picks. Brandon Ingram's hurt. RJ Barrett's been hurt. Quickly's been hurt for most of the season. They're going to get a top 10 pick in this draft to add to this core. I look at Quickly, RJ, Ingram, Scotty, Yaka, O'Shea, Grady Dick, a potential top 10 pick. I think that's a good core to build around, but the roster doesn't make much sense because they're about to pay 4 players $30+ million a year. Scotty, BI, RJ, and IQ. I don't think that makes much sense. I mean, dating back to the offseason when they paid Emmanuel Quickley, I thought it was an overpay. Nobody was actively bidding for Quickley, and he got $30 million a year. There's players that are his archetype that fit that contract much better, and the teams are getting much better value for them. Right. I just don't know. It just doesn't. It's not a good fit. But Brandon Ingram is an exceptional player, and you can't pass up the opportunity on adding talent to a team that is talentless for the most part.
Brandon Ingram just walked in Toronto. He's their best player. Like pretty comfortably to me.
Better than Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, I think he's a better player than Scotty Barnes as of right now.
Talentless is nuts. Raptors are talentless.
They're one of the worst teams in NBA.
They are, but their starting 5 isn't terrible.
They're one of the worst teams in NBA.
I think RJ Barrett, when the stakes don't matter and when there's nothing really to play for. I know that sounds crazy to say, but he's a good player. I think IQ. He's all right. Like he's a good player. Like he's more of the back end of the top guards in the league, but he's an okay player. I think Brandon Ingram right now is the best player on the team. He's their best offensive player for sure on their team. So I guess that relieves a lot of pressure into what RJ's been doing, what Scotty's been doing. You kind of bring in somebody who's a bona fide scorer, can get to his spots, can work at all 3 levels. Really good playmaker. Probably one of the best playmaking wings in the league. I agree with you, though. I think it's weird. Like, it's been weird for Toronto in the sense of they really can't decide what they want to do. They just cannot stay to one timeline. They have to, if they want to rebuild, now they're like, oh, wait a minute. We won 5 in a row. Let's retool. Let's get better. If they retool, they're like, oh, we lost 6 in a row. Let's rebuild. They really can't pick which way they want to go. And now they're stuck with these big, not gigantic, but these big contracts in RJ and IQ. You're going to probably pay Brandon Ingram. You can't just let him walk for nothing. But I think they got him.
If you do, it makes no sense.
They got him for free, though. I don't think they gave up a ton to get Brandon Ingram. I think they kind of got a really good player that unfortunately is an injury-prone player. For Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown in the first-round pick, you want to collect as much talent as you can. If you bring in a guy that's top 7 in the draft with this core, I could see it, but where does he develop? Where's his window? You got IQ. Like if you take a guard, you got IQ at 30 mil taking up space. If you take a 2 guard, you got RJ Barrett at 27 mil taking up space. There really is no space or avenue for that player to come in and kind of get better or like kind of get his shot. So now you're looking at this offseason, man, Messiah has really he hasn't been on his A game. I want to say that. He just hasn't been on his A game. He's really fallen off a cliff. And Toronto's sitting here at 16-35, 13th seed in the NBA, or 13th seed in the East, pardon me. And this trade was one of the ones that I woke up to like, why? Why would they do this?
And to your point, and then you could go, John, then we can move on to the next trade we're going to talk about. is when you're a bad team, it makes it very difficult to evaluate how many players on your roster are actually good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because RJ Barrett has been playing really well this year, but he's been playing really well when everybody else has been out of the lineup. So how is he going to play when he's next to other good players? Like with the Knicks, the reason why they traded him was because he wasn't a fit on a contender, and OG Anunoby fit that mold much better. So the numbers for some of these players on the Raptors might look good, but how many can you realistically build around for the future? Because you don't know if it's empty stats or if it's they're numbers that can actually contribute to winning.
Yeah, the biggest thing on the side of Jared is there's no vision. Like, the moves that he makes don't really sequence well together. But I will say, I think part of the rationale in this move is that last couple of years, after his kind of breakout seasons in like 2021, B.I. was taking 3 threes a game. This year he's been out, missed a lot of time, only played 18 games because of ankle injuries. But in those 18 games, he was taking 6 3-point attempts per game. And that's something he was doing his first 2 years in New Orleans. I believe part of the idea for Toronto is that they believe he's going to get the attempts up. And if he is taking 6 threes a game, making 36%, that's one of the premier playmaking wins in basketball, that's where this move starts to make a lot more sense to me.
I thought Atlanta was going to get him. I thought Atlanta was going to get B.I. That would have made sense.
I would have liked that a lot.
Yeah, that would have made sense. Toronto, here we go.
Jonas Valanciunas got traded to the Sacramento Kings. The Wizards got 2 second-round picks and Sidi Sissoko, another young player that can maybe develop. The Kings have a backup big, but this kind of feels like
They're the same player.
It's like the Raptors of the West, but just a much better version.
Yeah, I mean, Valanciunas and Sabonis come from the same mold of just the back to the
Kings
basket.
of the Raptors,
It's underselling the Kings.
they're so much better.
They're better, but
That's
what's the
what you
vision
said?
for the
I didn't
Kings?
hear what he said.
Well,
What's the vision for the
They
Kings?
got
How many
Sabonis,
play in
right?
playoff?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sabonis,
I
right?
think that they could be a player.
Raptors' vision should not be
No,
make the
they
play
need
in
to
playoff.
tank. They need to
Should
stop
be
trying
what
to
Brooklyn
win.
is doing.
And what should the Kings' vision be realistically?
Cooking.
Well, when
Be
you have
competitive
Levine, you have
and draft
DeMar,
assets.
you have Sabonis.
First round exit, maybe playing.
Don't disagree, but those are 3 veteran players that are not trying to
I think
lose
Sacramento is
basketball
different
games.
because you see Toronto, they've been consistently good for a long time, and they have a championship in this era. With Sacramento, you can maybe grab 3 years in 25 years that they've been good. They're just they
be
just want
competitive
competitive
for a few years.
basketball,
That's
you know,
right.
just to be competitive for a couple years, be good. Look, this move gives them a backup center. You know, Jonas Valanciunas isn't the center they probably need. You probably wanted a rim protecting athletic big, but they give him somebody that Sabonis can sit down. You know, Valanciunas is going to crash the glass, get some offensive rebounds, hit a little couple post hooks here and there.
True.
I think the team is. It's weird. They don't have a point guard.
They don't have a vision.
They don't have a vision either, but Fox kind of put you in that position, kind of when he was like, I want to leave, I want to be competitive, and you kind of had no choice because he said I wasn't extended. So he kind of put you in the hole. And Sabonis, is, like I mentioned before, is a weird player to where you can't just send him anywhere and he'll fit. He kind of has to be specific because you don't know what his trade value is. You really don't. Like Sabonis is one of those players kind of like where you just don't know or you can't gauge the value of him yet just because he's a great player in your system, but will he be the same player in other places that can be competitive? As for DeMar, you just signed him. You're probably not going to trade him. Keegan Murray's a young player. You the one few young player you kind of don't want to leave out. Malik Monk, you just signed him. He kind of stayed for Fox. So you kind of got put in this bind here where you're like, we need something. So Zach LaVine, Jonas Valanciunas, it keeps us in the hunt, keeps us competitive. They've been playing some good basketball. I agree with you, Joel. I do think they need to tank, but they went 15 years of tanking, and they weren't good at it.
No,
so
you can't-
I think right now you're in a position where you just got to see where this takes you with Doug Christie.
Yeah, you can't rebuild forever. I think this is a good move, like you highlighted, as a backup 5 for 15 minutes a night. But for Sacramento, it's not that archetype of a center to take them to maybe, let's say, the 8th seed to the 6th seed. So I think my question would be how defensively they're able to get that rim protection. But Sabonis this year has been better in the defensive end. And I think overall, the Kings' idea here is we're going to have a top offense. We're going to be one of the most fun teams in the league. And even if we're average, even if we're a 41-win team, it's going to be a fun product to watch. And like you highlighted before, for the Kings, just being competitive is a win for right now. And if you're adding and stockpiling draft capital along the way to prepare for your future, the fans should be somewhat happy.
Yeah, I'm not mad if I'm a Kings fan right now. I understand you guys just traded for a couple first-round picks, for a couple second-round picks. You lost De'Aaron Fox, but you weren't going to keep him back. That's a great package. And on top of it, we get Zach LaVine, who's been back to form for what we saw a couple of years back with LaVine, how efficient he's been, how incredible he's been on the offensive side of the ball. Malik Monk having more point guard responsibility. Yeah, this is this is a good team, but the issue is there are better teams. And
West.
That's where, if you're a Kings fan, this is a bittersweet because this is probably the best roster you've had in over a decade. Or in over 2 decades, excuse me. This is as good as it's going to get. The issue is the league's just ahead of you. And you just have to make moves in the margins because the Kings are not one of these bigger marketed teams that they just need to go and they need to be very, very smart with the moves that they make. But I think right now it's still trending in the right direction. You got a nice return for Fox, and you still have really strong talent on this team. You just have to hope that the young guys can go and develop, especially Keegan Murray, from how he went from his rookie season to where he's at right now. I'd argue it's disappointing, and I think a lot of other people would argue that as well. So Kings fans, I think better days are to come still. This is still something to be optimistic about.
I don't think they got a good return for Fox. At first, it looked good at face value. It's a pseudo first-round pick from the Hornets that's not going to become a first-round pick. And then it's Spurs picks that are going to be in the late 20s. They didn't even get the Atlanta first-round pick in 2025.
They wasn't getting that.
De'Aaron Fox was not going to come back. That is the only thing that you can think about in thinking, wow, we got 2 firsts.
The Spurs robbed them.
Because the Spurs won.
Kings had no leverage.
Kings had zero leverage.
Yeah, of course, they had zero leverage, but still, the return, just because they had zero leverage doesn't mean I'm going to say the return was good.
Ask you a question.
The return wasn't good.
Let me ask you a question.
They got no young prospect from the Spurs.
Calm down.
They wasn't going to get Castle.
But they didn't get Vassell. They didn't get Sohan. They didn't even get Malachi
That's a
Branham.
great point.
They got
They could have at
nothing.
least gotten Showing.
All right, again, think about it. Why did Miami win, in your opinion?
Because Jimmy Butler was on an expiring deal, and he was actively not playing for them.
Agreed. That being said,
why get Vassell if you got Zach? You know what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you're getting redundant.
I don't think the Spurs were going to get they were willing to part ways with anybody.
I agree with you, but I'm saying from the Kings' perspective, we're looking at it. They're not giving us Castle. Damn. Why get Vassell if we have Zach LaVine? Why get Sohan if we still believe in Keegan Murray? There's no young player over there outside of Castle that we're looking, and of course Wemby, we're never getting.
No.
That we're looking like we need to get back as a return. There's nothing they can give us because we have either we're getting those players or we have their players at the same.
The best part about this deal is that the Kings are now one step closer to rebuilding. That's the good thing about this deal. I think because of the Supermax contract that they were eligible to give De'Aaron Fox, I don't think that either side should have been happy with that. De'Aaron Fox wants to compete, and the Kings don't want to pay a player that they know can't be the best player on the championship team. Getting Zach LaVine, that's a high salary contract, but it's going to end much sooner than giving Fox a Supermax. So now you're just going to rebuild quicker. This roster doesn't make much sense. Against Orlando last night, they looked overwhelmed by defense and the size that they had to offer, and they need time to mesh, but really, Jonas Valanciunas is an offensive backup big who's unplayable in a lot of matchups. Yeah. I just feel like they've missed in the draft. You had a chance to draft Khalil Ware. You had a chance to draft Yves Misi. They missed on bigs that clearly would have fit this roster better. And, I think that's what it speaks to. So De'Aaron Fox was their franchise player, and I think they gave him away for just a clear pathway to rebuild. There's nothing you can hold on to in the deal.
You got to give up Sabonis in the same breath, and I think they can't right now. There's like I said, there's not enough teams that are vying for a Sabonis type player, and you don't know what his market is. And I think he's getting $40 million for a player has his deficiencies on the defensive end. And yeah, he's not the most portable. He still lapses in athleticism. So
let's see if he's on a new team.
This season,
3-point percentage will translate.
This season, he's been so amazing. Yes, this has been his best year of his career by far. We say that every single year, it seems.
I think legitimately, Sabonis is. I think now with his current version, he can actually fit other playoff teams.
It depends. I think teams are going to wait, which I respect it, until they see it in the playoffs if they do make the playoffs, to see if that translates. Because you can always play good in the regular season. It's easier to do that in an 82-game sample size where you don't kind of see the same teams back to back to back. But in a playoff series where teams are schemed up against you, you have a lot of time. That's where he's going to be able to make his claim to, no, I am portable. No, I can fit on multiple teams. I think if they do make it, if they don't, then, this is all out the window.
I will say, Joel, you're right, that the Kings should have gotten at least some young talent in return for a player in Fox who was your franchise face. But at the same time, even though he's 29 years old and Zach LaVine's not a long-term fit necessarily, and he's on a bigger contract, I don't think we could overlook the fact LaVine was having arguably his best season in Chicago, having a resurgence, staying healthy, making damn near 45% of his threes, and showing that athletic pop while playing the three. He showed a good amount of versatility. And I feel like for Sacramento, yes, you could have gotten more young, kind of long-term pieces, but to still get Zach LaVine, he's having a remarkable season. So I feel like you can understand the deal more from that lens of we're still going to be a playoff caliber team. And at the end of the day, they're only 4 games back from the 6th seed, 5 games back from the 5th. If they can get to that 5 or 6 seed spot, it could be a pretty interesting team to watch.
You're right. If Doug Creasy can get them playing again like they played once he became the interim head coach, there's some optimism there. But a lot of the West teams got better. The Lakers got really better with Luka Doncic and then getting Mark Williams. Last night, they traded for Mark Williams. He traded Dalton Connect.
Some shit. Oh, excuse my language. Sorry.
Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2031 first-round pick, and a 2030 pick swap. Now, why, Riv, are you not high on the Lakers team? Like, we probably all are. How high are you on them? Can they make the NBA Finals?
I mean, the finals is crazy to me, but they can easily make a playoff.
It's not crazy when you have Luka Doncic. It's not.
They need a lot of things to go their way health-wise.
He's spitting. You got Luka and LeBron?
Come
on.
I think we were talking about it in the car. Mark Williams is an interesting player because he gives you like three different like him. Like it's 3 different years. And I'm gonna speak for all of us. We're not all gonna sit here and act like we genuinely sit down and watch Hornets games. No.
Whoa.
Let's
respect me.
Let's not. You watch for LaMelo. You're glued right on LaMelo.
You're right.
But
wrong.
I had about an hour this morning to kind of collect some Mark Williams data. He hasn't been a good rim protector this year, and I think that is the one thing that's kind of leaning me towards I want to wait and see, because offensively I think he provides everything that they want him to provide. He's a really good offensive rebounder. He has nice touch. He has a 9'9" standing reach.
Yeah,
the tallest in the league.
Yeah, it's insane. But defensively, as a rim protector, you kind of need that for guys like Luke and LeBron who aren't playing defense right now. I think defensively that's where I'm at with it. Like I want to see what else they can do. They didn't really. I hate the trade package. Like giving up Dalton, okay, whatever. Like
Hornets passed up on him.
Yeah, and it's fine. Truth be told, you gave up a first-round pick in 2031.
Your boy.
Yeah, it's fine. You gave up Cam Reddish. He wasn't playing, so it's fine. With Mark Williams, it's just about defensively. Can he be a rim protector? Can he be that guy that can anchor a defense? Can he stay healthy? That's another big thing. He has not played in 3 seasons. And I get, people are excited about him and excited about the player he can be. He's been playing really well offensively this year. But kind of got to look at it as like injury prone, bad defense, anchoring your defense. Optimism is crazy. You tweeted about him and Derek Lively. That was nuts.
Mark Williams and Derek Lively have similar potential.
No. You saying that was nuts.
How is that crazy?
By the way,
because 2 different types of centers.
2 different types of centers. 1, 2. Even them coming out the draft, there was a clear difference in who they were. Derek Lively is much more athletic.
I never said they're the same.
No, but even them having similar potential. I don't know if you
don't think they do.
Mark Williams hasn't showed you enough for you to even say that.
I think Mark Williams has all-star level potential. He's that good offensively. He's a great offensive big. With Luka Doncic, he can average 20+ points per game and 10+ rebounds.
He's right.
In the West.
Post LeBron.
He can average.
He's not
18,
doing it right now.
He can average 18 and 10 right now.
No, right now, 20
with Luka and
LeBron.
There's so many mouths to feed for him to get 20 points a game.
Yeah,
that's
but
why
there's so many mouths to feed, but not in the interior. Like all the pick and roll actions are gonna involve him.
I agree with that, but regardless, LeBron's going downhill. Luka's going downhill. Reeves is gonna attack the basket and try and get to the free throw line at the absolute worst. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Yeah. I think 20 points per game, it's something that's attainable.
Not this year. I said 18 and 10 he could average this year.
And I still think that's on the higher side.
16 and 10 on a bad team.
He's averaging 16 and 10, not even playing 25 minutes per game. That's what he's playing right now.
And Riv, what did I say to you on the way here? My big thing here was he's not going to see the offensive opportunity that he saw in Charlotte. That's obvious. We know that. He's the 4th scoring option. That's just the truth. I understand that he is the big presence on the interior, but you have Luka, you have LeBron, you have Austin Reeves. Those are 3 that are going to get theirs before Mark does. What this does for him is now locks him into the defensive side of the ball, which we saw his freshman and sophomore seasons. He was a great defensive big the last 2 years. This year, he has not shown that. He has no effort on the defensive side so far this season, and I've been very consistent on this. If you are on a bad team, it is very easy to not want to play defense. Effort is the
PJ.
biggest. That is so well said, John.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes, because PJ went from Charlotte And you have people like me who really wasn't high on his defense going to Dallas, and that's his shining trait right now with the Mavericks. You look at Mark Will and what he was able to do his first 2 years in the league as a defensive presence, his impact on the defensive side. Now you go and you bring him to LA where now his primary focus is going to be defense. Of course, pick and roll offense, working in that short roll with Luka, that's going to be all day. No doubt that's the most exciting part about it. But what I'm optimistic about is that now he has a reason to be the best version of his defensive self. And it's easy to be, Lakers fan, he's being delusional. What has he shown this year to show you that he could be a great defensive big? He's still 23 years old. He was excellent on defensive side, although it's been limited time because the big blemish on Mark is that he's injury prone. When he's on that basketball court, he is a great talent, has great potential. I think with Luka and LeBron, there's no better fit for him to do that, to excel at. But I do believe his defense will get back now because, one, we have a need for it, and two, he has a reason to play hard again.
Now, Riv, let me convince you real quick. Over the last 10 games, Mark Williams has averaged 20 points and 12 rebounds per game.
I don't mind
shooting
his
close
offense.
to 57% from the field. Yeah, I'm optimistic about the offense more than the defense. I think there's a lot of work on defensively. I think his instincts, his shot blocking ability,
even his footwork,
his positioning. What's going to really kill the Lakers defense is his defense in drop coverage because the Lakers don't have the perimeter defenders to make up for that, and he's going to be lost a lot of the times on there. But he has the traits to get better. I don't think it's going to be immediate, but like I said, all the pick and roll actions are going to roll through him. Austin Reeves, when he's calling for a big to set a screen, it's going to be Mark Will, Luka, LeBron, same thing. He's going to be involved in so many actions to where I think he is going to be a high volume scorer for them. He's going to score a lot of points for this team. He's fourth in the NBA in PER since he's played this season. You're talking about what Mark Williams can be, the potential. I'm talking about what he's been this season. All he has to do is stay healthy, which to this point has been a big if, but I think this was a well worth it swing for the Lakers. You now have players that are young like Luka, Mark Williams, Vando, Rui, Austin Reeves.
26.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, you have players that now are young that fit the Luka timeline for this post-LeBron era. This was an A-plus move, and we're all wondering how the Lakers keep making these moves.
I'm gonna pump the brakes
This
on
is where your
A+.
Luka fan comes
Okay,
out.
hold on. Let me explain this.
How is not an A-plus move?
All right, this is
You're the only one that thinks
this
it's
is
A+.
a.
I
Wasn't
think
Christian
so.
one A+ move back in the day too?
Don't compare, please.
No,
don't
I'm
do
not
that.
comparing them, but that's
remember.
the last time.
And I
Luka
love
got a
that you
young
mentioned
big.
P.J. Washington because, like, your optimism on the defense lies in he's playing for a bad team and maybe he shows more of a motor. P.J. Washington always had the athletic capabilities to be a good defender. He just didn't do it in Charlotte. But once he got to a contender, he was able to. Mark Williams, we can see a different version of him. And this is the best Lakers big man besides Anthony Davis that they've had since Andrew Bynum.
And that's not saying much.
Andrew Bynum was
Pau
exceptional.
Gasol.
Andrew Bynum, you're right,
Yeah.
100%.
So Dwight Howard.
Center.
Dwight.
I'm talking center. Dwight wasn't that good with the
Dwight
Lakers.
was much better than
please
Marcus.
respect
Stop.
Not than Andrew Bynum's last season.
But Dwight was better than Mark Williams. Bro, he was still 18
He had
and
2
12.
stints with them.
And he played defense with the Lakers.
Yeah. All right,
What's wrong with you?
This is not an A+
Lakers,
move.
Dwight was not good.
It's not
He was
an A+.
better than Mark
Yeah, he
Williams.
was.
He hasn't played yet. Mark Williams has not played yet.
Well, stop. This is an argument that's not.
Mark was
going to
be exceptional for the Lakers.
All right, he's going to be good. Here's why it's not an A+ move. It's a B+ move because the Lakers don't have a tradable first-round pick for 6 years, and we decided to use it on Mark Williams. That's kind of where I'm at with that. The 2031st, I thought that would be used for maybe a little bit better player, even though Mark Will is definitely still young, strong upside, can be great with Luka. The traits that Rob Pelinka was looking for in a center, Mark Williams fits all of those. That being said, the fact that we don't have a tradable first till 2033 is pretty insane to think about. But regardless, I think Mark Will's good. The injury concerns me. It scares me a little bit, but I know the potential that he has. I know what he's shown me this season. He really is a strong offensive player, but what I believe in the most is that now that there is a reason to play defense, we'll see that version that we saw his freshman and sophomore season.
I just can't get with the if you're on a bad team and you're a big, you don't play defense.
I'm not saying
that's
that
a
you
fair
don't play
point.
defense.
Because
more
Walker
apparent with the
Kessler is in
wing
Utah. He
regard.
plays defense.
I like that you mentioned that because for a big man, it is more apparent the defensive deficiencies.
It is.
Whether
It's
it's
Walker
on
Kessler
a
better
bad or
play
good
defense
team.
because he does not provide offense the way Mark
No,
Will does.
it's not even that. It's just
Mark Williams is lost on
he
defense.
is, bro.
This year, he has
you
not
can't
been
say- You can't say for the first 2 years they were bad. You played defense. This year, you're still bad. Oh, I just don't want to play defense
I can point
anymore.
to his defensive deficiencies, though, being a matter of the fact he's missed 127 games his first 3 years in the NBA.
I'm with
He's
you on
played
that.
39% of the Hornets games. Defensively, he has a lot of work to do. It reminds me of Ayton's first few years or James Wiseman. On the offensive ends, where this move makes so much sense, but it was a risk for the Lakers because of that durability concern and the fact, like you highlighted, you gave up a pick swap and the first-round pick with Connect, who's a good, solid 3-and-D, really a high-level shooter. But at the end of the day, it's really a matter of can he be like Ayton, where Ayton developed a lot that third year when he got to play with Chris Paul, and all of a sudden it started to click for him defensively. Then a couple of years later, the motor started to go, and we had those same questions again. But for that 2 to 3 year window where the Suns were a 60-win team going to the finals, Ayton showed that, but in his first 2 years, he looked very lost, much like Mark Will. I believe the move can work out, but it's just a matter of the fact he played 19 games in year 2. So really, he's still a player that's in year 2 because he played 43 games as a rookie. Yeah. He's only 20 games into this year. He's so young. He has a lot of potential. And coming out the draft, what was he really mocked to be? This high-level rim protector with the athleticism, really the explosiveness around the rim. Offensively, I think, like you highlighted, he could average 18 a game. He's great around the rim. He's going to be a really good lob target for Luka. But it's really a matter of if he's on the floor, I'm not too worried. But if he's missing time, that's where we saw, just like James Wiseman, it's going to be a lot harder for him to develop. A team is trying to contend.
The Lakers are banking on his health. The Hornets are betting against his health.
They can draft him
continue.
again. Like, they could literally get Malak, and they're doing the same thing over and over again.
We have to move on to top 5 buyers and sellers, but this revisionist history on Dwight Howard with the Lakers.
I thought he was
First
good.
stint, he had a back injury the entire year.
And he averaged 18 and 12?
But from watching
injury?
him that season, it was very disappointing. That's why Kobe Bryant, he didn't vibe with him that year.
Nash is more disappointing.
That was more, he didn't like
next.
Dwight Howard's work ethic.
He averaged 17 and 12.
Oh, so close. 17 point.
Yeah, 17.1.
Damn.
I would have rounded.
Made
You know
all
me.
NBA team.
Yeah, it was so close. I think Mark is going to be good offensively. My problem isn't him offensively. It's staying on the court and defensively. Because John talked about James Wiseman and how, he's missed time. Yeah, but he's having the same issues defensively he did in college. We're in year 3 or 4.
Yeah.
He made the All-NBA team.
Yeah, 13.
He didn't deserve it. I don't think so. Not that
Who deserved it over, if you remember?
Center position was weak
The center,
back then, Joel.
early 2010s, the center position was very weak.
deserve it, but
No.
No clue who deserves it over him. It's crazy to me.
No.
That's all I'm
But
saying.
you have to understand that era.
No, I'm not that.
Center play was weak.
I get it, but you saying he didn't deserve it and then not having a backup who
No,
deserves it.
let me get back to you on that. Let me
Yo,
get back to you on that.
you are hilarious.
I just didn't know. That Lakers team was disappointing.
It was.
Everybody was all around.
Steve Nash back was done.
Yeah.
It was disappointing too.